bull's head gently. Genius, intelligence, brilliance. We admire these qualities in others, but they can also become our greatest obstacle, because the mind, when left unchecked, becomes a trap. Today I will share with you an ego hack, not a trick of manipulation, but a method of liberation. And with this I will offer you 5 habits, not to defeat others, but to master yourself. Let us begin not with noise, but with the absence of it. Before any clever move, before any strategic word or action, there is a space, a pause that is invisible to most, yet it carries the essence of wisdom. When you stand before someone who is intelligent, eloquent, or accomplished, the mind wants to react. It wants to prove itself, to speak, to interrupt, to show that it too has value. But in that very moment, there is something far more powerful you can do. Nothing at all. Just breathe, just wait, just observe. This is not inaction, it is preparation. It is mastery in its earliest form. A person who rushes to respond is often guided by impulse, not clarity. The ego does not like silence. The ego wants to fill the air. Yet silence is the weapon the ego fears most. Because silence reveals whether your words come from depth or from insecurity. There is a calm in those who have trained their inner world that cannot be faked. It is not loud, it does not argue, but it influences the room with quiet power. This is where your genius move begins, not with a sentence, but with a still breath. When 2 people enter a room and begin to speak, most will listen to the words, but the wise one listens to the spaces between the words, the breath before the reply, the tone hidden in the pause. These subtle movements reveal more than intellect ever could. And so, when you embrace inner silence before outer action, you learn to hear more, to see more, to feel more. You begin to sense the difference between a clever mind and a clear mind. The former is fast, the latter is focused. Imagine someone throws a stone into a still lake. The ripples begin to spread. If the lake is already turbulent, the new wave goes unnoticed. But in stillness, even the smallest movement becomes visible. In the same way, when you cultivate inner stillness, every detail outside becomes magnified. You begin to sense tension in someone's voice. You begin to notice hesitation behind someone's certainty. You pick up on the truth that even the most intelligent person might be missing, not because you are more intelligent, but because you are more present. In conversation, do not rush to speak. Let the other mind reveal itself. Let them present their thoughts fully. While they are explaining, debating, proving, you remain silent, not to be passive, but to be precise. You allow them to lay out all their cards while yours remain close to the heart. This is not deception. This is preparation. And in this space you see what others miss, their patterns, their fears, their assumptions. You become the mirror in which their mind reflects. And in doing so, you are already one step ahead, not because you outthought them, but because you outweighted them. Silence becomes your strategy, but not a cold silence, a listening silence, a warm attention. This type of silence does not shut down the conversation, it elevates it. People feel heard when you don't interrupt. They feel understood when you don't rush to reply. And in that space of comfort, they open, they speak more, they show more. And without knowing, they give you everything you need to understand them. Most people believe that power comes from the ability to persuade. But real power comes from the ability to perceive. And perception does not come from noise. It comes from space. A mind trained in inner silence can hear the truth behind the words and the emotion behind the logic. It does not need to argue, because it already knows. Even in moments of conflict, this practice serves you. When someone challenges you, they expect a challenge in return. When they see none, they are disarmed. When you do not react, their own ego becomes louder and clumsier. It becomes more obvious. And you, still, grounded, observing, gain clarity. This is how silence becomes strength, not weakness. Think of a martial artist in the ring. The untrained fighter rushes forward. The master waits, watches, reads, and when the strike comes, it is precise and it is final, not because it was fast, but because it was wise. This is your genius move. To be so silent that you hear everything. To be so still that you see through everything. To be so present that the smartest mind reveals itself to you without realizing. You may feel tempted in many situations to interrupt, to assert, to show that you too are intelligent. But this is exactly what weakens you. When you speak from ego, you betray your own clarity. When you speak from silence, you carry weight. Every word becomes deliberate. Every word has power because it came not from your insecurity, but from your insight. This habit of pausing before action is not just for conversation. It applies to decision-making, to leadership, to problem solving. The person who acts from silence chooses better, leads better, lives better, because they are not being pulled by emotion or pushed by fear. They are acting from center, from awareness. And this does not come easily. It must be trained. Every morning when you wake up, practice not filling your world with noise. Sit, breathe, feel. Let silence become your companion. Do this before your phone, before your emails, before your schedule. In this practice, your mind becomes a lake again. Over time, you will notice that the people around you, no matter how smart, start to speak to you differently. They feel your attention, they sense your clarity, and they begin to adjust themselves without even knowing why. You did not defeat their ego, you simply refused to feed yours. And that is the hack. To outsmart the mind by outquieting it. When others rush to prove they are clever, you simply prove you are clear. Let us continue the path that begins in stillness, because once silence is cultivated, the next natural power that arises is the art of observation without attachment. The eyes may look outward, but the training is always inward. This is where ego often slips in quietly, wearing the clothes of logic and intellect. It wants to form conclusions before the moment is fully understood. It wants to label what it sees and judge what it hears. But a disciplined mind resists this impulse. It chooses to observe fully, without rushing into meaning or control. That is where the second genius move begins. To observe without attachment is to see clearly without being disturbed by what you see. When a person speaks their mind, you do not have to agree or disagree. You simply allow it to arrive. You let it pass through you like wind across the face. No resistance, no reaction, only awareness. When someone behaves arrogantly or emotionally, your training reminds you they are revealing more about themselves than about truth. The ego will want to respond, the mind will want to match their tone. But that is how you lose your center. In Shaolin, we do not fight force with force. We absorb, we redirect, we study. The same applies here. The smartest minds often carry heavy attachment to their own thoughts. Their intelligence becomes their identity, and that identity becomes a wall that protects them but also blinds them. You do not need to challenge that wall head on. You only need to remain unattached. That wall is built from fear of being wrong, from pride in being seen as right. But when you observe from stillness, that wall becomes transparent. In dialogue, you will notice this pattern. Many people listen only to respond. Few listen to understand. Even fewer listen without seeking anything at all. This last level is where true power lives. Because when you do not need to prove or correct or dominate the mind of the other, cannot hook you. It cannot trap you in a cycle of argument. You are free to see what is being said and what is being hidden. When you become this type of observer, people feel exposed and safe at the same time. Because you are not attacking them, but they know they cannot deceive you either. Let go of the idea that you must form an opinion quickly. Let go of the urge to categorize what you hear. The genius move here is to delay the conclusion until you have fully absorbed the moment. Let your observation become like water, taking the shape of the container. You become flexible, unpredictable. People cannot read your mind because you are not clinging to a single position. You flow, and in that flow, they reveal themselves more and more. Not because you demanded it, but because you created the space for truths to rise. When someone says something you disagree with, do not let your body react first. Let your breath guide you. Let your face stay calm. If needed, say nothing. Watch their eyes. Listen to the rhythm of their words. Often the truth is not in the logic, but in the emotion behind the logic. Someone may speak with confidence, but their fear is visible to you. Another may use big words, but you can see the confusion behind them. This is what observation without attachment allows. You are no longer fooled by appearance. In conflict, this is especially powerful. If someone tries to provoke you, their goal is to pull you into their emotional storm. But when you are rooted in still observation, their storm cannot reach you. They become louder while you become clearer. They try harder to break you while you grow quieter and more solid. In the end, they defeat themselves. You did nothing but observe. This is not passivity, it is precision. It is knowing when to move and when not to. It is allowing the ego of the other to collapse without you lifting a finger. This practice trains you to separate yourself from the chaos of the world. It allows you to move among chaos without being touched by it. People may be clever with words, but you become clear in presence. They may win arguments, but you win insight. And over time, this makes you the most stable mind in any room. You are not playing the same game. While others are trying to be heard, you are simply seeing. While they compete to be right, you stand quietly in truth. And that truth needs no defense. To master this habit, you must train daily. Spend time each morning, not just in silence, but in observation. Watch your own thoughts rise without chasing them. Let each emotion come and go without grabbing it. This is how you prepare for the world, because the person who cannot observe their own mind cannot observe others. But the one who watches without judgment begins to understand what others do not even see in themselves. Eventually you will reach a point where people feel seen just by being near you. You will not need to speak much. Your presence will reflect their reality back to them. And this makes you unforgettable. Not because you said something brilliant, but because you saw what others missed. You did not attach your ego to knowledge. You attached your awareness to wisdom. And that is the essence of the second habit. You do not need to prove you are right. You only need to be clear. You do not need to be above others. You only need to see below the surface. And once you see clearly, everything else becomes easy to navigate. Let the mind rest a little more and follow me deeper, because after we learn to observe without attachment, we begin to touch the deeper layers of human connection. This is where the third movement takes place, and it is more powerful than most realize. It begins with a question, but not a question to get information, not a question to prove cleverness, and certainly not a question to trap someone in logic. The true question is asked to awaken something within the other, to spark awareness, to offer space for them to see themselves more clearly. This is the genius move that looks simple, yet opens doors others do not even know exist. When people speak, they reveal much more than the words they choose. They reveal how they see the world, They reveal what they value, what they fear, what they are trying to protect. But most are not aware of this themselves. They speak from habit, not from clarity. So when you learn to ask the right kind of question, you offer them a mirror. You do not tell them they are wrong. You do not argue their view. You simply ask something that makes them pause and look inward. That pause is a sacred space where growth begins. The ego resists this kind of question because it fears losing control. A shallow mind wants answers, but a quiet mind invites reflection. To ask such a question, you must already be free of the need to win. You must ask not from pride, but from presence. For example, instead of saying, "Why do you think that is right?" you ask, "What led you to that conclusion?" Instead of challenging them with force, you walk beside them with curiosity. This is not weakness, this is strategy. Because when someone feels respected, they open, and when they open, they become vulnerable to truth. Many intelligent people are trained to debate, they are prepared to defend, but they are rarely prepared to look inside. Your question becomes a doorway to that inner territory, and you do not walk in, you simply open the door and step back. Let them walk through if they are ready. If not, you lose nothing. Because you have not invested your energy in resistance, you have invested it in clarity, in stillness, in trust that truth speaks loudest when it is discovered, not delivered. Some of the most powerful shifts I have seen happen not through instruction, but through invitation. A single sincere question can shake the foundation of a long-held belief, not because the question attacked it, but because it asked the mind to look again. People rarely do this on their own. They need someone who holds space without judgment. That person can be you. And to be that person, you must train yourself to listen with your whole presence and speak only when the moment is ripe. There is a rhythm to conversation that can only be felt through silence and attention. When you are in tune with it, you will know exactly when to ask. You will sense the crack in the wall, the opening in the pattern, the moment the mind is not guarding itself. This sensitivity cannot be rushed. It is born through practice, through humility, through years of observing, not speaking, of watching, not reacting. Then the question comes, not from your mind, but from your being, and it lands not on their ears, but in their heart. Do not seek to impress, seek to awaken. Do not try to manipulate, try to illuminate. Most people speak to direct attention toward themselves. You speak to guide attention back to the other. And when you do this, your words carry more weight than the longest speech. The more you train this, the more people begin to associate your presence with insight. They feel different after speaking with you, not because you gave them answers, but because you helped them see something they had overlooked. And you will notice something else. The smartest minds will begin to slow down in your presence. They will pause before replying, not out of fear, but out of respect, because your presence demands awareness. You did not ask them to be careful. You simply became the type of person that draws out care. This is the effect of refined energy. It shifts the dynamic of any room without force. This is a high form of leadership, quiet, grounded, transformative. Now remember that asking such questions also means you must live your own questions. You must constantly examine yourself without attachment. You must be willing to see the layers of your own mind. You cannot offer a mirror to others if you refuse to look in your own. So begin by asking yourself gently, often sincerely, what am I not seeing clearly? What am I holding on to? Where is my own resistance hiding? As you deepen in this practice, your questions to others gain power, not because they are sharp, but because they are real. A real question cannot be faked. It comes from stillness and carries the weight of your journey. People can feel it. They may not understand why, but they feel drawn to speak more honestly around you. They feel safe to think out loud, and this is where change happens. You have outsmarted them not by being more intelligent, but by being more present. You created the condition where insight becomes possible, so speak less, Oh, ask better. Let each question be like a seed planted with care, and let go of needing to see it grow. The power lies not in the answer, but in the shift that begins the moment the question touches something real. After the silence has anchored you, after observation has cleared your sight, after the right question has opened the unseen door, what remains is not intellect or logic but energy. It is this that defines how deeply your presence reaches. And the fourth movement is about managing that energy with discipline and awareness. Because without energy, all other tools lose force, and without control, all energy becomes chaos. Even the sharpest mind cannot compensate for a scattered life. There are those who speak wisely but cannot stay calm in discomfort. There are those who understand deeply yet cannot hold still under pressure. And there are those who know many things, but their energy leaks in every direction because they have not built the container to hold their strength. If you want to outsmart even the most brilliant minds, you must first master the way your energy flows and the way it rests. This is not about being constantly active, it is about being consistently aligned. Every day your attention is pulled 1,000 different ways. Every noise, every message, every demand chips away at your strength, and most do not notice because they confuse stimulation with energy. But true energy builds in stillness and burns steadily like a flame, not like a firework. It needs rhythm, not reaction. It needs control, not chaos. And the most powerful way to build it is through discipline in what you allow and what you remove. Most people assume freedom means saying yes to everything, but the wise one knows that real freedom is built on saying no. The moment you say no to what drains you, your energy returns. The moment you say no to unnecessary conflict, distraction, comfort, you create space for power to rise inside you. This is not suppression, this is refinement. It is like training a wild horse not to break its spirit, but to guide its force so that it serves something greater than impulse. Your habits shape your energy more than your thoughts. Every morning you decide whether you start with intention or reaction. Every night you decide whether you end with peace or noise. In between, every action either gives you energy or steals it, and those who outlast the intelligent are not always the smartest, but they are the most consistent. They show up, they endure, they recover. They do not allow their energy to be dictated by emotion or opinion or comparison. They choose their pace and they stay with it. You may be in a room with a fast mind, someone who argues well, someone who dominates with speed, but if your energy is calm, clean and centered, their fire cannot burn you out. You stay rooted, you listen deeply, you speak only when needed, and when you do speak, your voice carries the weight of someone who is not rushing, not reacting, not proving, just standing, grounded, and that kind of presence silences even the loudest ego. Energy is not just stamina, it is vibration. When your inner state is peaceful, it affects others without effort. They sense it in how you breathe, in how you look at them, in how you wait, in how you move. This cannot be faked. It comes from living in a way that honors your energy. It comes from what you eat, how you rest, how you move, how you speak, how you think, and more than anything, how you protect the space within you from noise that does not belong. Sometimes people mistake this for being boring or too quiet or not ambitious enough, but what they miss is that peace is not the absence of power. Peace is power that does not need to shout. You do not need to compete when you are aligned. You do not need to impress when you are steady. You do not need to argue when you know where your energy goes and why. The strongest move is not always forward. Sometimes the strongest move is to stand still when the world wants you to react and wait until you choose what matters most. You cannot master this in a week or a month. It is a lifestyle, and it is built through thousands of small decisions every day. When you choose to walk instead of scroll, when you choose to breathe instead of reply, when you choose to sleep instead of chase, when you choose to say no even when it feels uncomfortable, when you choose simplicity over noise and presence over performance. Every one of those choices strengthens your core and makes your energy something people feel before they hear you. When your energy becomes clean, your vision becomes clear. And once your vision is clear, your actions become sharp, not rushed, not emotional, but focused and intentional. You no longer waste effort on what does not serve your direction, and that makes you move faster without hurrying, deeper without drowning, and stronger without showing off. You are not pushed by pressure, you are pulled by clarity, and that clarity feeds your energy every day. So protect your mornings, protect your sleep, protect your breath, protect your inner silence. These are not soft things, they are hard disciplines in a loud world. And they are what separate the scattered from the sharp, the impulsive from the intentional, the smart from the wise. Those who are always thinking are often tired. Those who are always doing are often burnt out. But the one who learns to manage their energy becomes the one everyone turns to when things fall apart, because they carry stillness in motion and fire in quiet. Now, when your energy is rooted, when your observation is clear, when your questions open minds and your silence holds presence, there is still one more step to make all of this real and complete. And that is to align everything you practice into action with purpose, because none of this matters if it stays as theory or thought or private insight. The fifth habit is to move with deliberate purpose, to walk your values, to embody what you speak, to turn stillness into motion that builds not just your mind but your impact. Too many people collect knowledge but never translate it into movement. They know the words, they can repeat the lessons, but their actions are empty. Their lives do not reflect what they claim to understand, and the mind becomes a chamber of echoes where truth is trapped inside but never expressed outside. Purpose is what gives everything direction. When you act without it, you waste your energy, your time, your focus, your life. But when you act with it, you become a force that cannot be stopped by doubt or resistance. Purpose is not found, it is built. It is shaped by your discipline, your choices, your struggle, your clarity. It comes into form as you let go of distractions and live what you say you believe. It does not need to be grand or famous, it needs to be real. You do not need to save the world, but you must serve something higher than ego. You must know why you wake up each day and what part of you is leading the way. When you do not know this, you drift. And when you drift, your gifts remain buried and your mind stays restless. Something purpose is a feeling, but feelings change. Purpose remains. It becomes your internal compass, so that even in confusion you know the next step, and even in failure you know why you continue when others stop you. Move because your steps are not ruled by convenience. They are aligned with something greater. Something that does not ask for permission or applause. It simply asks that you show up and do the work. You can outsmart the most intelligent person in the room, not by debating them, not by impressing them, but by living in a way that makes their cleverness look hollow. Because while they are arguing, you are building. While they are talking, you are acting. While they are distracted by image, you are led by substance. And this difference is not always noticed in the beginning, but over time, the results make it impossible to ignore. The one who acts with purpose becomes the example that others cannot deny. Your clarity speaks louder than their opinions. Your consistency becomes proof. Your silence becomes instruction, and your results become your argument. This is not about status. It is about alignment. You become someone who does not just talk about change, but lives it. You do not just know the principles, you become the principle in motion. When you move with purpose, every step contains meaning, every word carries weight, every day becomes part of something larger. And when you live this way, doubt has no space to grow. You still feel fear, but you do not obey it. You still face challenge, but you do not fold, because your movement is not powered by mood. It is powered by mission. And this is why purpose is the final discipline, because without it, all others fade into performance, but with it, everything sharpens into presence. The difference between one who knows and one who leads is this: the one who knows waits for the right condition, the one who leads creates it. The one who knows talks about change, the one who leads becomes it. The one who knows reads the map, the one who leads walks the path and leaves signs for others. This is the true expression of mastery.